This episode has been brought to you by Schedulicity.
Welcome to episode 122 of the Connected Yoga Teacher podcast. One of the things almost all of us struggle with is productivity. There are only 24 hours in a day, and yet there seem to be an endless number of tasks that we need to do to maintain our yoga business. I know I'm not alone in this. I hear from so many of you all the time, and some of you reach out and ask me, Shannon, all the things that you do, how do you get them done? Well, I want to tell you about a guest that has really impacted my business, Amber de la Garza, the productivity specialist. She is here today to set the record straight with some straight talk, because that's what she's really good at. She also has a podcast, and I will have all of the links to hear more from Amber at the end of this episode. Today, Amber talks to us about how we can identify our productive activities. And yeah, right before I went to hit record in this episode, I was about to check my email, and then I thought, no, let's get to what I'm supposed to be doing today. Amber is going to help us when we feel like we need to find time to do all the things. We also talk about some of Amber's strategies that I've used in my own business and how they've helped me to achieve what I want in my business. And this is one of those episodes, after I did this interview, I find myself talking about these strategies over and over again to yoga teachers. So whether you've been feeling stressed and overwhelmed by the number of tasks that you have to run your business, or if you want to be more productive, to leave more time to do the things that you love away from your business, Amber has just the tips, strategies, and advice you need. I am so excited to share this with you today. Also, Amber has a freebie for you. So if you go to theproductivityspecialist.com/yoga, it's there for you. And I will make sure that all of the links are in our show notes. So you'll go to theconnectedyogateacher.com/122 to find everything there. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Shannon Crow. I'm a mother of three, a yoga teacher, and a trainer and consultant working for yoga teachers. And this podcast was created for you because I really get the struggles and challenges that yoga teachers face. I work with yoga teachers all the time. I've been a yoga teacher for over 13 years. So this is a place where you can connect to information and inspiration every single week and feel supported. Before we dive in and hear from Amber, let's hear from Schedulicity.
Connected Yoga Teachers, this is Chelsea from Schedulicity with a hot tip of the week. Schedulicity's package management add-on is a great option for yoga teachers. This allows you to create an incentive package with a discount that can add value to your students' visits and help ensure their return business. If each one of your classes costs $10, you could create a 5 for $40 package and offer it online. Then, when your clients are booking a class, they'll see this option. Payment is required upfront for packages, so you'll be paid and they'll have a great reason to come back. Maybe one 5-class package is all they need to turn their yoga practice into a habit.
Thank you so much, Team Schedulicity. If you don't already know Connected Yoga Teachers, I absolutely love Schedulicity. It's a scheduling software that I use all the time as a podcaster, as a yoga teacher, as someone who leads yoga teacher training. That is how people book and pay me. So let's dig in and meet Amber now. As I said, she's a productivity specialist. She is a sought-after coach, trainer, speaker, writer, and she hosts the Productivity Straight Talk podcast. Before Amber became a productivity specialist, she was a licensed realtor with a bachelor's degree in real estate and business management. And Amber talks about how after meeting a lot of talented people who weren't achieving their goals because of overwhelm and quote-unquote lack of time, because as we know, we all have the same amount of time, but some people are just really good at what is quote-unquote productivity. So we're going to get into that today with Amber. Amber then realized after working with all of these people that the problem wasn't that they had less time, but that they just didn't know how to maximize their productivity with the time they had. Amber has studied this with her own business. She loves to geek out about all things productivity, and she really sees what works for her and others. I love that about her. On her podcast, she'll often talk to people really digging into their own business, their own personality, and combining it all for their productivity. Today, Amber helps driven entrepreneurs execute actionable solutions to maximize profit. And yes, we got into talking about money mindset in this episode, also to reduce stress and to make time for what matters most. So let's dig in and hear from Amber and see how we can apply this to our yoga business. Welcome to the Connected Yoga Teacher Podcast, Amber. It's great to have you here today.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure. I'm really looking forward to chatting with you today.
Me too. I am a big fan of your podcast and a lot of the stuff that you put out. We've worked together before. And today I'm super excited that we get to talk about productivity and what that actually means for a yoga teacher, for an entrepreneur, for someone who's running a small business.
Yes, it's my favorite topic.
So how did you get into this? What started this journey? How did you become this? And tell us, what is your official title?
Yeah, well, I guess I'll start backwards. So my official title is the Productivity Specialist. I am a coach, trainer, speaker, writer, and podcast host. So all that means is those are all the ways that I share my messaging about how to improve your productivity as an entrepreneur. I got into my business. I've been in business for 7 years. I actually got into it because I had done business coaching, but I was an employee. So I worked for a large real estate company here in Las Vegas. And I was responsible for coaching the top 20% of sales executives on how to build their business with business systems. I loved it. Like my background, next year I've been licensed for 20 years and I don't practice any longer, but my whole background was in real estate and I interned. And so I had been with the company for over a decade. And one of those roles was coaching. And the material, what we were teaching them and coaching them on was phenomenal, really. But my clients kept coming back with the same kind of message, like repetitively. And it was, this is really good, but I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so busy working in my business. I have no time to work on my business. And I thought, this is such a shame because this company is actually paying my salary to provide these resources. And they can't take advantage of something that's right at their fingertips because they had no time management skills. And so that seed stuck with me for many, many years. And then I ended up fast forward, got pregnant, had my son. And I was like, oh, well, I'm not going back to corporate. And when I was asking myself, what did I want to do? I was like, it's such a shame that they are so talented and many obviously successful in their own right. But what if they had the skill set and they could be so much more successful? What would they be like on purpose? If they could go after their business purposely. So I ended up getting obsessed with efficiency, organization, productivity, and started my business on my son's second birthday.
Wow.
And I initially, I think that all businesses kind of go through transitions and mine's not any different. So I actually started as, I believe my first business card said something like organizational consultant. I thought every business needed more organization to reach their goals and get more done. And they do. But after working a little bit, I saw that people saw organization as a luxury.
Right.
So then I changed my title to efficiency consultant. And literally the next day, and I didn't do anything different, right? I changed my title and then I could not, the business wouldn't stop because people see that as a necessity in their business, efficiency. But I did that for several years. And after working with client after client, it was so clear to me that I could help them with efficiency and organization and all the things. But as you know, it really starts and ends with us. And so that's when I became the productivity specialist and really focusing in on our own behaviors and habits and the way that we manage ourselves. Because it doesn't matter what environment or what systems we have around us. If we're not using them because we haven't changed ourselves and like learned something new, it didn't work. So that's my long story of my journey in really kind of organically finding out and really continually wanting to seek, well, what really does work? What really does create change? And so now I'm on a mission because I feel that there's so many people that believe they were either born organized or not, or it's a trait to be productive or not. And I am so adamant, and I proved it time and time again with clients, it is a skill set that can be learned. And as long as you feel like you can learn something new, this could be something you learn to help you in your personal and business life.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love also how you shared your story and how your title changed. And it just, because the listeners of our podcast know I'm really into talking about niching down and specializing. And it's a process. It's not like, bing, the light bulb goes off and then you're that thing and off you go.
Oh my gosh, I wish it was a bing, a light bulb, and something went off. I would have to say that was quite, in hindsight, that was a great, succinct story, but it is not like that behind the scenes, right? You're like banging your head against the door. You're not sure what it is that's not working. You change your name and you're like, that works. Yeah, it's definitely a process and it's multi-layered. When I first started, I did know I wanted to help business owners, but I was fearful to just put my stake in the ground and say only entrepreneurs. So I was helping anybody that needed help with productivity. And it became clear to me fast, like there is something that lights me up like a fire in my gut to help entrepreneurs. And other people, other industries, not so much, to be truthful, and so I leaned into that. And so now I specifically help entrepreneurs and also sales executives, because they also are like an entrepreneur within an organization. They're very responsible for their own time and things like that. So those are the two areas that I serve now exclusively.
That's amazing. So tell us, what is productivity? Because you're the specialist in this, and I am so curious to hear what your definition of this is.
Yeah. So, I feel that productivity is one of those things or words that everyone has their own, thoughts or definitions around it. And it's because of their own experiences. So I'm going to invite everyone to my definition, if just for this podcast episode. And if you like it, you get to keep it. But my definition is investing your best time into your best activities. And it's really a framework, right? Because we can be productive in our businesses, which is what I talk a lot about. But I also talk about how to be productive in our personal lives. And so if it's really as simple as you are productive when you're investing your best time, and that is your focused, distraction-free, focused time on your best activities, well, then your best activities are the ones that will propel you towards achieving your goals. Now, in our business, that's generally, and if it's not, I'm going to tell you it should be, it's about money. Like you may want to help people, which is great. We all want to help people. And you need to help people to have a sustained income. But at the end of the day, your business is not a business if it's not making money. So in our business, it really needs to be centered around revenue generating activities. But in our personal lives, it could be fitness or health. In my relationship with my son, I have a highly valuable, productive activity that leads me to my goal of what I want my relationship with my son to be like, and my husband. And so it's really about filling in the blanks of investing your time in those activities that have the biggest impact.
Oh, I love how you brought in that productivity isn't just in our business, that it's also in our personal life as well. This is so good.
Yeah. So I'm going to just give a real example for myself. And then I think we're going to mostly be talking about business, but I just want to round this out, because everything that we're going to share and talk about today, while it's going to be focused around business, you can plug and play anything, any other goal in your life. So for myself, my son, he's 8, and his love language is quality time. So he just really wants mom time, right? And I don't know about you, but with kids, it's like homework and dinner and laundry, and then get in the shower and then get to bed. And you're like, holy cow, did I even say anything past hi to my kid, right? It's just instruction, okay, now it's dinner time. Now it's this time. Now it's this time.
Yeah.
That time after school just goes so fast. So I learned really early on that I wanted to carve out 30 minutes every single day, no matter what, if I'm in town. to spend time with my son. So we go into his room at 8:15. From 8:15 to 8:45, he's got my undivided time. Sometimes we play games. Most of the time we're reading, we're talking, and that is my most valuable, highly productive activity to move that relationship forward. And I block it out and I ensure that it happens. If I wasn't that clear about my best time or that clear about the activity that would actually let me achieve that goal, lots can happen. Like, think of all the things we'd rather do at 8 o'clock at night, veg out, watch TV, go to bed early, do an extra load of laundry. And so it's about protecting that time, knowing that doing it compounded over time will get me the results that I anticipate with my relationship with my son.
Oh, that's amazing. I just heard him recently on your podcast, and he's like a very responsible young man with a whole podcast of his own on his own topic. I love it.
He does. He's been on twice now. We're in our 90s and 90, around the 90 episode mark, and he's been a guest twice. And he loves being a guest. And I've charged him with, you can be a guest so long as you pitch me a topic that's valuable to my listeners. And I've held him to it. And he came and brought a really good one recently about organization.
Yeah, it was so good. I was like, oh, I'm going to get my kids to listen to this.
That's awesome.
So once we know that we're going to focus in on business, specifically around running a yoga business. So how do we be productive then? If we think, okay, like we have the definition now, we know that we're going to focus and give our time to our number one thing. And I know a lot of yoga teachers who are like, I do this thing, then I do this thing. And they want to help out and say yes to so many things.
Yes. So, well, it sounds pretty easy, right? Just decide what you're going to do and do it. Okay. Yeah. Well, life is not like that. Let's talk real life. And so, I truly believe that organization is not the same as productivity, and neither is efficiency. And so when people are, kind of bulking that all together, I think that they get a misunderstanding of what productivity is. And so since we've clearly defined productivity, where does organization and efficiency come into play? Well, generally, the number one reason that I hear, and just in general, of why we're not achieving our goals is because we don't have enough time. And so if on one hand you're saying I want to be productive and invest my time in my best activities, but you're disorganized, you're inefficient, you can't find your stuff, you're not mismanaging your time, then you will always have that as an excuse that you don't have the time to be most productive. And so that's why I talk about, okay, so how do we get organized so that we reclaim time so that we can invest it in our high value activities? How do we create efficiencies in our business so that we can reclaim time? The only reason we want to do those things is so that we can truly reinvest it in these high value activities and no longer use that as an excuse. I don't have enough time.
Right.
I really personally believe in affirmations. In fact, that was the first episode my son did, is affirmations. My son does affirmations every day. And he spoke about how he created his affirmations and was teaching what that can do for us. And one of my affirmations for myself is that I always have time for what matters most. Because it's true, I don't know about you, but we do not have all the time in the world, and we don't have time for everything. So when we just kind of reframe that and say, I always have time for what matters most, that makes us prioritize what matters most and ensure that we're creating a business that can support us investing our time in those things.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, I really
awesome.
like it.
So I love to kind of just give that landscape because everyone's coming from different experiences. And, here's why we know they're not the same. I'm going to give this as an example. Shannon, have you ever met someone that had a color-coded calendar, perfectly clean desk, their files were alphabetized, and yet they still weren't reaching their goals?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay, right? So then you probably may have met someone that's so disorganized, you're like, oh my gosh, how do they even keep their head on straight? And they're slaying their goals.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's how we know that one does not mean the other. Like, you don't have to be organized to be productive and reach your goals. Now, the person that you're like, how do they keep their head on and they're successful in slaying their goals? I would I would challenge that to say, well, what if they were on purpose? What if they were organized and not, wasting time, and they could be spending more time on these high value activities? What would that look like? And because I work with a lot of successful people, I see that all the time, is they've gotten to a point where they're successful and they look at me and they say, I'm not sure how this has happened, but what would this be like if it was on purpose?
Right.
And so that's really, really what I work with clients on. And also, I would love to share with you how we find our most productive activities, right? Because now we're throwing this word out here like, oh, and invest it in your best activities. And as unique as you and I are as people, so are our businesses, so are our goals.
Yeah.
And I would venture to say that while even if I said, and I was bold enough to say that as a business owner, your primary goal should be a revenue number, the way you're going to hit that number, the way you're going to grow your business, who you serve, what that number is so different for everybody. So now how do we fill in the blank with what's most productive? And I would love to chat about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you bring in the money piece as well to this, and that really is the goal. And that if I can just, maybe you have some insight into how to not feel guilty about charging and making money and being profitable. Do you have any?
Oh, yes. So, well, I would love to just share with that, you can do so much good with money for your family, money for your community, your church, wherever you choose to invest in and use your money, you can do good. Devaluing yourself and what you offer is not doing good, because you're going to be out of business, right? Like, you are in business, and if you're not in business, then you could be really probably employed somewhere, or maybe not employed at all, and you're at home with your children. Like, there's an expense that you're leaving your current, wherever you're at, right? Like, whatever that looks like. If you're providing value, it's completely okay to charge for what you're providing value for. Now, I'm thinking, Amber, what would you have been thinking if you heard Amber talking 7 years ago? And I would have thought, well, that's for someone else that knows she's providing value and isn't questioning the value they provide, and all of those thoughts that come up. And I'm telling you that even with my business, I still have those beliefs. They creep up, and so now you're going to get like even more of my affirmations, right? Like, I affirm every day that I provide value, and that it is okay to charge what I believe I'm worth and the value that I am providing people. Now, I love to give some behind the scenes. I've been in business for 7 years. 7 years ago, I remember when I was going to charge my first client to organize their office at $35 an hour, and I was in the parking lot and I was going to throw up, like physically shaking, going to throw up. I had no idea who would pay that kind of money. Now I charge hundreds and hundreds of dollars an hour. And I can't say it's not scary, but I've done my due diligence to be very, very good at what I do and provide value and know that I'm changing people's lives. And I focus on that. And I've gradually, built upon that $35 an hour. And the best way, I don't think there's any magic to it, but I'll tell you how I did it. I filled up my calendar with clients at the low rate. And then when I filled the calendar up and I was limited on time, I bumped my rates up and I did it again. And then I filled my calendar up with clients and I bumped my rate up again. And the fact that I had clients saying yes gave me that confidence, and knowing that now I can bump it up. And if I bump it up and some say no, I'm still making the same amount of money and working less. Okay. And I bumped it up again and bumped it up again. And then I opened my eyes to, well, what is the value that I'm truly providing, and how is that impacting people's businesses and lives? And so I think it's a personal journey, and I think it's something that not enough people are talking about. In fact, I didn't even know we were going to talk about this, but I'm so passionate about it because I have girlfriends that are in similar businesses and revenue and don't think we're not on Voxer. Like, should I charge this much? Should I charge it? Oh my gosh, I have a proposal out. Like, okay, I said this. Like, are they going to say yes or no? Like, oh, who am I to charge that? And we support each other and we talk ourselves through it and try to get out of our heads of those voices so that we can really provide and grow our businesses and provide for our families.
That's amazing. And I really like how you said that you filled your calendar. And I know right now our yoga teachers are like, oh my gosh, how do I do that? Either with group classes or one-on-one bookings or workshops. And so
Yeah.
I'm guessing that your productivity work is what got you there. So
Yes.
can you
Yes.
tell us, how can we translate that? Tell us how we do that.
Right, right. So I love defining our most valuable, highly productive activities into 4 buckets. The first bucket is marketing and visibility. And I want you to think of these as buckets that are overflowing. Okay. And you don't get to go to bucket 2 until you have bucket number 1 overflowing. So marketing and visibility is bucket number 1, which means you have to let people know what you do. And that can be done in so many different ways. It could be networking and community, and it could be online, and it could be social media, and it could be going to other conferences and workshops. Like, there are so many different ways to do this. But if you're not doing it consistently, your bucket dries up and you're not going to go to any of these other buckets we're going to talk about. So, on a consistent basis, if not daily, absolutely weekly, if you're looking at your schedule, you've got to see that you've invested your time into marketing and visibility activities.
Okay. So for our yoga teachers, this comes up so much that they are like, I don't want to appear salesy or slimy. I want to just tell people about my offer and then have them show up. And I love how you said this is something that we have to keep doing. Because the other thing I hear is yoga teachers will say, I had a great turnout for this workshop or this class. And then the next one wasn't so great.
Right. Because then we get so busy serving those clients in the workshop or serving or doing whatever it is we're in our business, we turn our head and we're not focused on marketing and visibility. And if I could tell you that, any successful business, if you're not big enough to have a department or an employee that's doing marketing and visibility, that's you. And it has to be on your calendar or in your schedule on a very consistent basis. I don't think that there's a magic bullet. I could think of, name any industry, and even, you have a lot of experience specifically in yoga. Has somebody made it big on social media that's a yoga teacher?
Yeah.
Yes. Has somebody made it really big going to conferences and sharing what it is they do? Probably yes. Like, you can fill it in. It doesn't matter the thing. What matters is that that person probably did that thing very consistently. And they got really, really good at telling people about how they can help them in that way. I'll give you so the message here is really consistency. And then when you're trying to figure out, well, what way works best, I trust that I would always want to do something that I kind of enjoy doing, right? So if you're not somebody that really likes talking to somebody face to face, like one-on-one at a networking event, and it kind of gives you hives and it makes you uncomfortable, like, who am I to say, go network? That's how you're going to grow your business. You need to find a way that you like, and you may not be that great at it, but you like it enough. If you show up and you show up consistently, you're going to get a heck of a lot better at it, and you'll get results because you're showing up. And you're going to refine your messaging, and you're going to refine who you're talking to, and you're going to refine explaining what it is that you do through practice, not by sitting at home thinking about who you're going to talk to about it.
Right. Oh, that's a good point, because we always want to be doing it perfectly, but we can't start there. It's like learning
I
how to
wish
walk.
I could record myself all the time, because nothing I say is as brilliant as when I'm just like in the hot seat, like I'm just randomly talking to somebody. And then I'll walk away. I'm like, wow, I would have never thought of that if I was trying to come up with my elevator pitch or my what, my whatever. And so I guess the moral of the story is like practice, but on people. Like,
Right.
just get out and do it. Yeah.
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 Okay. So that's number one, marketing and visibility. And if we put it on our calendar, that's really interesting. So we put this block of, here's my marketing and visibility time.
Yeah.
You're bringing to mind a couple of things. So if I sit down in the morning and I think I have this training that I want to fill, I look at how many sticky notes are empty and
Yeah.
how many spots I have. My brain starts thinking, how can I fill those? So that would be like, then I go into marketing mode.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess it's going to be trial and error. I think that everyone's waiting for someone to tell them like what the magic bullet is. And I have yet to figure that out. Right. So maybe I'm just not the right person to ask, but not knowing that something's going to work 100% isn't a reason to not take action. Like I
Right.
have seen so many of my clients that they take action and stumble upon something that works really well for them. So I would say just keep being consistent and finding something that you enjoy doing, because if you don't enjoy it, we are in business truly because we enjoy whatever. So chances are you enjoy yoga, but there's other things you enjoy. And if you find a way to share your story of how you help people in a way that you enjoy, I bet you're going to show up for yourself a lot more, consistently than trying to do something that doesn't feel good.
That's so true. Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So then bucket number 2 is sales. All right. So now you've let people know what you do and you've either marketed or got, you have visibility. People are aware of you. It's not the same as sales. So to be very clear, a sales, high value sales activity is like a discovery call. It's sitting down with somebody at coffee, but actually saying, I would love to work with you. Not just sitting down at coffee and you're like, they know I'm a yoga teacher. And if they wanted a yoga instructor, they would have said something. And then the person is thinking, well, if they wanted to work with me, they would have said something.
Right.
and I'm making a joke of this, but it's so true. Like that's not a sales activity, lunch or coffee, unless you've purposely said, how can I serve you? I would love to work with you. Would you like to join me in my workshop? I do one-on-one yoga training. Do you know anybody that I could specifically help? Going for the ask.
Right. Okay. So this is good. If we go out and say we do a talk in our community, so we're gaining the visibility in bucket number 1,
Mm-hmm.
then a follow up and asking for sales. Is that something we hand out there? Is that something during our talk that we do or in a follow up?
Oh my gosh, I love that you said that as an example. I love to talk, and I have spoken, I think, at just about every local luncheon dinner thing you could think of in my town. And when I was early on, I also just thought, well, that was a great talk. If they wanted to work with me, they would say something.
Right.
That was not working. So I think it needs to be a very clear offer that says, this is the way that I help people. If you're interested, can we schedule a time to chat? Or it could be, it depends on how formal. There's different ways to do it. I've done it where I left a form on the table that said, if you're interested in working with me, fill out the form and I'll call you to schedule, a time to chat.
Oh, that's a great idea because
Yeah.
then lots of people could fill that out even if they couldn't talk one-on-one with you at the end of it.
And a lot of the times these events run over. So
Yes.
people are jetting out, and that doesn't have anything to do with you. That just means they had somewhere else to be. So they could be filling it out while the event's going on if they're interested in leaving it on the table. Another great tip that I have experienced is being ensure that you're sharing stories of how you're specifically helping people in your talk. So don't just talk about the benefits of yoga, and don't just talk about the history of yoga or whatever it is. Say, when I was working with Sally, she was having these issues because she sat at her desk 10 hours a day, and after working with her, this was what she experienced.
Right.
That's seeding somebody to start envisioning themselves to be Sally.
Right. Oh, this is so good. We can often do this as yoga teachers if we're teaching, say, a group class and we would like to book more one-on-one, then we can start to bring in those stories in that group class to say, oh, just last week when I was working one-on-one with someone, this pose really helped them. Let me share it with you tonight. And then they're like, oh, that's a
Yes.
possibility. Yeah.
100%. For me, I was sharing with you before we went live, my best friend is a yoga teacher, a new yoga teacher. And so I'm lucky enough that she practices on my husband and I at her home studio. And, for her, it would be something like, um, maybe just telling a story of, I have this client, Amber, and she's so busy, and she's found it really helpful that I can come to her home and do yoga practice with her twice a week. Right? Because now you've laid a seed of, oh, I'm super busy too. And wow, did you know what I had to do with find babysitters to come to this class and this and make sure my husband's schedule let me get here. And all of that is what they're thinking of how they got to this group coaching. And so now you're planting a seed of, well, what would it be like if somebody came to my home and did a private session?
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. I also want to add in that when we were talking before, you said your friend just became a yoga teacher. She's practicing on your husband and you, and you feel like she's amazing and she doesn't even really
And
need to
she
practice.
doesn't need it. I'm like, I will tell her how amazing she is, but if I keep telling her, she's not going to be like practicing on my husband and I. My husband and I are, the experience has been amazing. And, I get it. Like, she's doing this to build her confidence so she can go charge X amount of money to go into someone's home and feel like no matter what their issues are, she can help them and she can, like my husband and I doing yoga together is so funny. Like, she's literally handling us so differently within the same training. I think that's amazing. Like, I know how it is to run like a workshop when you have two people at different levels in productivity or experiences. She's dealing with two different people and she's doing such an amazing job. And I tell her, I'm like, this is a talent that you can literally, create a customized experience for my husband and a customized experience for me all at the same time. But she doesn't know that that's special, right?
See, you see how special it is because you're receiving it. It's so good for our teachers to hear that someone right out of a teacher training, because that's usually where they're thinking, well, I have to do all of these other things. But really, they need to be marketing, getting that visibility, and then making the ask.
Yeah. So I mean, like, we're together all the time. She's her husband is my husband's best friend and she's my best friend. So we're together all the time. And I said, so like, how much would it be if I bought you? Like, I literally say that, like, she's like, oh, I'm working on my menu next Saturday. So where's your menu of services? Yeah, I haven't done that quite yet. Well, I can't tell any of my friends how to buy you, and I'm not telling them for you to practice on them. So, I'm coming from my go take action, productivity side, and she's coming from what I think a lot of your listeners may resonate with is, let me just practice again, or let me just, figure this out. And she's got everything she needs.
Tell her that. And also tell her that the moment she thinks, oh, I should take this other training or do this other workshop. No.
Yeah.
Do this first. Sell this first. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I want her to sell that. And anyway, so she is, she's doing something really important, but it doesn't fit into any of these 4 buckets, right?
Right.
Like, she's still in practice mode. And this could be with everything. Like, we could get so caught up in learning. Like, I call it content obesity.
Content obesity? Oh, where you just like keep creating content.
No, you keep consuming content.
Ah, yes.
Oh, I guess creating it could be. But if you're creating it, then hopefully you're selling it. But when I say it, I'm talking about you're consuming it. So, hey, I got my own podcast. You've got yours. But there are some people that are just listening to podcasts and never taking action. There are people that go from course to course and class to class. Like, they think they're going to be ready someday, when in fact, like, the real learning will happen as soon as they start taking action.
Right. Okay. I'm so glad we got into that. So we have marketing and visibility. Sales is number 2. And then what's bucket number 3?
So bucket number 3. So we've got marketing, visibility, sales, and 3 is servicing the client. Like, we think, of course, that's like high value activity. It's closest to the dollar. Your clients are paying you, but you don't get the benefit of working with a client if nobody knows about you, which is bucket number 1, and you never asked anybody, which is bucket number 2. So if you overflow the bucket number 1 and overflow it into bucket number 2, and you ask enough people to work with you, then your bucket of working with people will be overflowing.
Okay.
I think that a lot of people just focus in thinking bucket 3 stands alone like this. Like, I'm just going to, decide I'm a yoga teacher and people are going to just come and that it's easy to fill workshops and classes and stuff. And it takes step 1, 2, 3 all the time consistently. The other thing I have to say to this is, even when you're in bucket 3 and you've done well for yourself, what I'm going to say happens too often is that you stop investing in bucket 1 and 2 because now all your time and attention is to service your current clients. And when you do that, you will always have inconsistent revenue. because you're gonna do what it takes to get the client, then you're gonna serve the client, and the clients are gonna come and they're gonna go, and then you're gonna look around and you're gonna have to try and push the boulder up the hill again to start again on sales and marketing and visibility, and start again on sales. And there's a lead time, as you know, right? People have to, find you and say yes, and then now you'll lead into another spike in revenue. So
Right.
the key to have this consistent revenue is to be consistent in all three of these buckets.
That's so good. So many of our yoga teachers are saying, I want to reach this place of consistent income. And you're saying we need to keep doing those things. And I know what it feels like to drop off doing those things.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe at some point your business will be, by referral, that you'll have served enough people, but that's not by accident either. So now your marketing and visibility is talking to your current clients and saying, do you know anyone else that I can help in this way? Do you know anyone else that you would like, that you think would find value in attending my next workshop? So it doesn't happen by accident. You might be changing the activity of marketing and visibility, but you still have to do it.
Right. Now I'm thinking of a different analogy here. If a yoga studio hires a yoga teacher, so say there's a new yoga teacher and they get hired by a yoga studio, chances are they're doing 1 and 2 for them. They might be marketing, doing the visibility, and doing the sales for them. And so that would be the place where if a yoga teacher said, I just want to show up and teach yoga.
Yeah, which is completely okay. But then also we can now be speaking to the yoga studio owner. So that leads us into bucket number 4. And bucket number 4 is leadership. So in this situation or example that you gave, the yoga studio owner is now saying, I'm really good at bucket 1 and 2, so good that I cannot be the only one that's servicing the clients. So now they're hiring to help service bucket number 3, which is the clients. But now they are going to be spending their time in bucket 1, 2, and 4, which is leadership, ensuring that it's quality classes and that the yoga instructors are showing up and what's the schedule and things like that, right? And so as our businesses grow, there are going to be times where we're going to be spending a little bit more time in the 4th bucket, which is leadership, because we have somebody covering one of the first 3 buckets.
Right.
And it could also be in a different scenario. So you could decide like you love doing the yoga and you can handle all the clients because you're doing like one-to-many and workshops and retreats and things like that. So perhaps you're hiring out for the marketing and visibility. Like you're like, social media, what? Like I hate it. I'm going to hire that out. So you are saying, I get my business needs somebody to be consistently in bucket number 1. And so now you're in leadership bucket number 4 and bucket number 3, which is servicing the clients.
Oh, this is so good. And I think this is amazing because we really need to look at these 4 buckets and decide, where would I like to hang out the most? Like, would I like to teach yoga the most? Or a lot of yoga teachers think, well, if I own my own studio, I'll get to teach all the yoga classes I want. But you're saying maybe not. You might, if you don't hire someone to do 1 and 2, marketing and visibility and the sales, you don't get to teach.
Yes. Because if you're in studio, like if you're in servicing your clients, now you're talking about living probably out of balance. If you have a full schedule for, training your students and doing yoga classes, when are you going to be doing it? That's how you get the early mornings, the late hours. You're working more than 5 preferred days a week, whatever that is, 4, 5, 6 days a week. And then because you're still trying to fill up all these buckets yourself.
Right. Okay. So we have our 4 buckets. Now, if I'm thinking about just my day-to-day task list and I look at, okay, how much time should I be delegating to each one of these things? Or how does that work? Is there some kind of a formula?
Yeah, I wish there was a formula, but there's not, because we're talking to people that have very, very different goals, right? Revenue goals, growth goals, how many they're serving. And so the formula is really unique to what it is you're trying to create and what's working.
Right.
It
Okay.
has to be consistently, right? Like somebody that is like slaying it on social media, you know, that probably takes a lot less time, even if they're slaying it, than if your marketing strategy is to attend conferences and go to networking events, right? Your schedules will look really different. The amount of time you're investing is different. And so there isn't a one size fits all solution formula.
Okay. So if I'm thinking, one of the most common things that I'm hearing lately is that yoga teachers will say, I'm posting to Facebook, my page, every single day, and nobody's engaging with it and nobody's seeing it.
Yeah.
So they're trying to do the marketing and visibility piece.
I mean, if I had to be honest, I shouldn't be talking about that topic at all because I feel the same way. I mean, I don't know what is going on. I can get so frustrated with social media myself. I'm like, man, this stuff's good. Man, nobody saw it.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. Like for me, I cannot really even track. I can track awareness. I could track reinforcing my brand to people, but I can't say I've ever gotten like a client from one of my amazing, what I think is amazing posts or something. So
Okay.
I'm not the social media person. But here's the deal. While I do that, because I think there's a place for it, that is not a large portion of my schedule or my team's schedule. So I speak a lot locally and not locally, paid and not paid. I do a lot of podcast interviews. Like I have different visibility activities. And those visibility activities are measured. Like I do 4 podcast episodes a month, interviews, not just my own.
Oh, you
And
do on other podcasts 4.
yeah. Yeah. So that is my goal, is to be a guest on 4 other people's podcasts a month, because it brings awareness. I get to have these cool conversations. I love it. Like of all the things that I had to do on my list today, this is by far my favorite.
Right.
And it's filling my marketing and visibility bucket. So I guess, again, I just should not be talking to social media because I haven't quite figured that out, but I figured some other things out.
I love that you brought this in because so many yoga teachers are frustrated with social media and they feel like they're not figuring it out. And when I talk to them, they're like, when I say, where do you get your most, where do you get people booking with you? It's usually face to face or some video or some referral. So is that then where we put the majority of our time?
Yeah. So, I mean, I can guarantee, I can tell you that the biggest wins in my business have come from relationships. People have
Right.
referred, whether they worked with me or not. Maybe there was someone I met at a conference and they knew somebody. They're like, "Oh, you've got to talk to Amber. She can help you with that." Or, whatever that looked like. It's almost always been either repeat clients, somebody I met in person, and now, luckily, my podcast. And it's because I've been able to create that relationship. Like people know me, even though they don't know me. Like I'll run into somebody that I haven't seen in a really long time and they'll tell me something about my life. And I'm thinking we left off at a certain place in my life, but they've been listening to the podcast. And I'm like, how do they know that? So I've been able to create a platform that lets me be me and my personality. So then people know, like, and trust you. It's easier for them to say, I think she can help me.
Right. Okay. What about all of the other things on our to-do list then where we feel like I feel really productive when I'm answering emails and sometimes really long letters to people?
Yeah, so you're not. No,
If everyone stops getting emails from me after this episode goes out, you'll know why.
yeah. Well, here's the deal. We all live in a very real life, and our real businesses require us to be in our email and have administrative and file and pay our taxes and do our financials and build clients and build web pages and do brochures. Like the list goes on and on. That's the 5th bucket. That's the other bucket. And I don't care who you are. I don't care really how big your team is. Like there is always an other bucket. The trick, the method here, no tricks. The method here is to see it for what it is and know that when you're spending and investing your time in the other bucket, it's not your most productive activity. It's not your high value activities. So don't let your other bucket bleed over so much that you're never in the other 3 or 4 buckets.
Okay.
And the way to do that is to put a place on your schedule for these things, like processing your emails several times a day, not all day, like reconciling your bookkeeping. I do it for 90 minutes twice a month. It has to have a place in a home so that it doesn't feel like that's all you're doing. Because if we ignore these things in the other bucket and we're not effective and efficient with doing the things in the other bucket, organized, that's when fires are created. And then you're busy putting out fires. And that's why you're saying you don't have time for marketing and visibility and sales conversations and servicing your clients.
Could creating content easily fit into this bucket?
If it's not getting you results for marketing and visibility. And again, this is best of intents. Man, I blogged for years and hated every bit of it, by the way. Okay. I do not love writing. And everything I wrote, I was pacing behind my assistant talking. I don't know why it took me so long to figure out I needed a podcast to talk because I was doing what I thought. Like this was back in the day when everyone that, was saying blogging's a place to be. That's how you get found, content marketing, all of that stuff. And because it didn't fit for me and like my personality, it was like, stabbing my eye out. I wasn't consistent with it and it was a drag and I didn't like it. So did I create a lot of content that didn't get results? Yeah, absolutely. Right. But now fast forward my podcast, it's a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of money, but that is my primary method of marketing and visibility, bringing people and having people get to know me. So now I do see it as a high value activity. I have on my schedule 3 days a week for 2 hours in the morning content creation.
Right.
And in those times, I'm either creating podcasts or courses, or maybe it's a new speech that I got hired for, but I'm creating something that will inevitably either bring in business or someone's paid me, to go do a keynote or something. And so content creation for me is a very high value activity.
Okay. I love how you said. Now, I'm sure that we could also go into the leadership, build our team, and start passing over those busy bucket things as well.
Yeah. And so remember earlier we were talking about leadership, and maybe you hire someone to service your clients, or maybe you hire somebody for marketing and visibility. A great place to hire first would be the other bucket, your administrative side, right? The things that really aren't making you any money. If you could reclaim, let's just say if you audited your time and you're like, I'm spending 10 hours a week in administrative, non-revenue generating, and you've already identified that your hourly rate is XX, right? And so every time you're with a client, you make XX. Would it make sense to hire somebody for X for 10 hours a week? Because if you're right now saying, I don't have enough time to tell anyone else about me being in business, and if someone else asks to have a meeting with me, I don't know where and how that's going to get on my schedule. And servicing clients, I think I'm kind of maxed out. That's another problem. That's a different kind of problem. And so how can you leverage through other people? And you should be delegating out as much as you can administrative.
Right. Okay. So
in
good.
this day and age, when there are so many amazingly talented people that want to work virtually, that want to work a few hours a week, like there is no reason. Like this isn't, 15, 20 years ago where it was either a full-time or part-time and they had to be in your office. Like my team is all over the world, really, like Australia and Wisconsin and like you name it. I have like people everywhere, Florida. That's amazing. Like, why not take advantage of it? And one person that works for me is 5 hours a week, but that 5 hours a week, that's her zone of genius. And if I had to do it, it'd be like 10 hours a week because I hate it and I'm not very good at it. And so hiring that out, even if she has kind of a premium pricing, reclaim 10 hours, even though I'm only paying out 5, because she's got her systems and her processes and she's skilled at that thing. And that is a really good use of my money and time.
Right. Okay. This is so good. And then we can start to take the things off our list that are not our zone of genius, not our favorite thing to do. not the things that are bringing in the profit.
And if that sounds like, oh, that's amazing. So maybe you're there, but maybe you're not. And you're like, oh my gosh, like I would just love to have a team. Well, then go out and tell people what you do, have sales conversations and service clients, because I didn't have all that years ago,
Right.
At this point, I have a personal assistant / nanny that comes in and helps me with everything at home. I fired myself from all home duties, but that wasn't always like, there was a time that my husband worked out of state and I was running quadruple duty, like mom, home, like both mom and dad, like everything for years while still starting my business. And it wasn't until I, did my dues and I kept pushing forward until I could afford to fire myself from home stuff.
Oh, I love that.
So for me, that was like a first place I wanted to fire myself from.
Right.
Like when we ask what brings us joy and what doesn't.
I found someone the toilet.
No, so just to like round this up to give inspiration, when I first started my business 7 years ago. So not only was I throwing up at the idea of charging $35 an hour, my very first revenue goal, was to have enough profits to hire a housekeeper twice a month.
Oh.
And that was my first like success. Like I remember telling my husband, all right, I've done it consistently. Like I'm hiring a housekeeper and I still have the same ladies. Like all these years later, it was the best decision so that I reclaimed 2 full Saturdays a month.
Right.
Making that higher, right? That first initial outsourcing.
Yeah.
But now fast forward, I have someone that comes in and helps with like groceries and laundry and dinner and stuff. And so that, you know what my job is now? I am like the queen of Connect 4. Like I play games with my son after work. And this is only because it didn't happen overnight. And I don't want anyone to hear, because if I would have heard me talking years ago, I would have been like, how did that happen? Like, who is she? But it was really just being so clear at what I love doing and what I don't love doing, and being really clear about where I could delegate out so that I could show up better as a wife and a mom and a business owner.
Right. Oh, that's so good. I'm excited for our yoga teacher listeners to think, okay, am I working in those 4 buckets today? Or how can I be working in those 4 buckets today to be more productive?
Absolutely. And this is why I told you my belly fires up talking to business owners, because we get to create our future. Like wherever we're at now is not where we're going to be in 5 years. And so that hope and that like vision and that dream like lights me up. And knowing that if we learn this new skill set about how we invest our time could help us get there faster than in 5 years, or help us get clearer about that journey between that here and there. That's what I love.
That's amazing. If people want to hear your podcast or find out more about you, maybe work with you, how do they do that?
Yeah. So thank you for asking. My podcast is Productivity Straight Talk. You can find me anywhere podcasts, or anywhere you're listening to this podcast, I'm sure I am on there as well. My website is theproductivityspecialist.com. And if you want a visual of these buckets along with a worksheet so that you can print it off and either kind of brainstorm what should go in each of these buckets, or another way the worksheet's being used is if you have it at your desk, as you're going through your day, everything you do, you write and put it in the bucket it should be. And you can see like, oh my gosh, like I lived in the other bucket today, or I slayed the day. Look, I like did all these marketing and visibility activities. Anyways, it's just a PDF download, and you can get that at theproductivityspecialist.com/yoga.
Amazing. I'm so excited. I think that's such a good idea to like take the buckets, be ready to go, and then write down. I'm a little bit worried.
Yeah.
I'm going to try it. I'll let you know.
But you don't have to share it with anyone if you don't want to. So it's kind of data. You're collecting data to then make better decisions for tomorrow. That's all it is because if I were to ask you, Shannon, what did you do yesterday? Oftentimes I get a blank face. Every time I ask somebody, it's a blank look. So if you download this document and you document it, now you're going to have the information to then tweak tomorrow and tweak next week and just do better. When you know better, you do better.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, connected yoga teachers, how was that for you? What is your key takeaway? Where are you hanging out? When Amber talked about those 4 buckets and the busy bucket, I am so curious to hear where you're hanging out. I know that I get a lot of comfort from hanging out in the busy bucket, and sometimes it is much harder for me to hang out in the visibility and marketing bucket or the sales bucket. I'm super comfortable in the service of teaching yoga, sharing yoga, working one-on-one with people. And I am so excited to say that since talking with Amber, I have started to look at this leadership bucket in a whole new light. And that simply means for me and my business, when I do a task over and over again, I see, is this a task I love to do, or could I pass this over to someone on my team? So let's continue the conversation, Connected Yoga Teachers. Today is our last live Q&A, and you can find that in 2 places. Either go to theconnectedyogateacher.com and look under trainings and events, or you can find it in our Connected Yoga Teacher Facebook group. And if you aren't a member there yet, oh my goodness, come on over and join us. You can find the button to join that at theconnectedyogateacher.com right on our homepage. I want to give a shout out of thank you to Music Obsession from the United States. Thank you so much for leaving a review. Music Obsession says, this podcast always aligns with the specific struggles I'm facing in my business, be it insurance, niching down, anatomy resources, or strategizing my content, especially now as I'm planning workshops, online courses, newsletters, YouTube videos, and my first Facebook Lives. I am extremely glad to have found it an absolute must listen if you love yoga. Thank you again for this review, and I really hope, and I'm excited to hear how today's episode lands. So again, you can come on over and chat in our Facebook group about this episode. Let's continue the conversation, or in our live Q&A call. Speaking of the live Q&A call, we are taking a break from them for the summer. And if enough of you tell me, you know what, I really want the live Q&A call to come back in September, or hey, I didn't even know about it, tell me about it. If I hear from enough of you, I could be swayed to bring it back in September. So this is where I answer an hour of questions from yoga teachers. Any questions are welcome. It's super exciting. It's been really fun. And if I don't hear from people about it, then I'm going to replace that time and work on other projects. And they won't be projects out of my busy bucket. I hope not. Okay, I want to say a huge thank you to our team over here at the Connected Yoga Teacher. Samantha, Suzanne, Crunch, and Cindy, thank you so much for all you do each and every week. Also, thank you, listener. It is an absolute honor to hang out with you every week and to spend time together. And I am just excited if you can take one piece of today's episode and use it in your yoga business. And I want to know, what will you be doing to stay connected this week? To yourself, to your yoga practice, and to your community, so that you can share the yoga that lights you up.